to Abstract Solutions Radio, where we explore and expose the different aspects of the human experience through creativity and spirituality. Now enjoy your show with host Jennifer Hillman.
Hello, everyone. This is Jennifer Hillman, and we have a wonderful guest today. Kip-Baldwin is a writer, a producer, an actor, a musician, and even a magic maker. He is filled with love. His purpose is love, and I always have a wonderful time talking to him about the various experiences he has had, creatively and also spiritually, because they're actually more one and the same than anything else to me. So, Kip, thank you again for coming on air. It's always a wonderful conversation when you are on.
Very good morning to you, Jennifer. It's always wonderful to talk to you both on the air and off, and I'm always just thrilled whenever you ask. It's such an honor to get to chat with you and share with everyone out there.
So we were talking the other day, and we both have had pretty wild experiences with the quote-unquote other side. So, you know, infamy and the fact that it is all the time and it is everywhere, you know, everything we do is actually forever in infamy, like love. And you just have so many wonderful experiences. Would you like to share some?
You know, lately I've been, like we were discussing the other day, I'm just embracing more and more the power of healing and how in helping others you heal yourself. And I can't, despite all the things I'm involved with, and try to be very intentional in the projects I take on, make sure that they're meaningful. But when you're one-on-one with somebody and you get that immediate almost audience reaction of helping them through a crisis, of helping them ascend a little bit, all of a sudden, you're just filled with this energy, and you just realize you've helped yourself as well. You've helped yourself get a little bit further along the way. And for me personally, I can't think of anything I would rather spend every moment of my life doing than just being able to help people in whatever way you can. It doesn't have to be, a giant gesture. It can be a kind word, a hug, even a smile. These things we take for granted, these connections we have with each other, these are what's real, not this world of matter. Even when you look at it from the perspective of most physicists believe now, this isn't real. So what is real? Well, it's the connection we'll share. And acknowledging that connection through reaching out, saying, I hear you, I feel you, I understand you. What are you feeling? And a lot of times it's just listening, echoing back what people are saying to themselves so that they can hear and know that they're not alone. And that's another thing. By making someone else feel not alone, you realize you're not alone either. And I think so many of us in this world today, we feel so lost. We feel so isolated because we as a species have set ourselves apart from things we're inherently a part of, including one another. And I think when we reach out to heal somebody and help someone, it just reinforces that connection. It brings it to life when you're literally lifting someone up and you're pulling yourself up at the same time to that next plateau, to that next level of understanding, that next level of awareness and remembering. And like I said, I'm just overwhelmed by more and more they become more attuned to those energies. How you would want to spend a moment of your life not doing that is beyond me. How we can spend so much of our time hurting one another, and quite frankly, most all of humanity's problems are self-created. We manifest all of this ourselves. If we were to treat each other well, and we would actually put the needs and the needs of others and the healing of others before ourselves, the world would change literally overnight. And I don't think that some sort of hippy-dippy thing, religious thing. I think when you look at the energy, the science behind that, there's definitely a scientific perspective that says, yeah, if I put out this energy into the universe, that's what I get back, that's what I connect with. So we have to really be sure of what we want to manifest and realize that all of these problems, again, that we have, we can change just by simply changing how we approach life and how we approach one another.
Yeah, I had a really interesting experience about literally putting out some energy and seeing how somewhere else, somebody else was giving back. I contacted a friend of mine, Bernadette, and I said, hey, just checking in, want to make sure you're doing okay, letting you know I appreciate you. And I was out and about, and I was walking, and all of a sudden I heard, hey, Jennifer, this is Bernadette. Just wanted to see how you were doing. So it's like the mirroring effect of just doing that simple thing. Out in the universe, somebody else is picking up that idea. You might not know the person, but the energy out is the energy you get back. And it was just a really good mirroring to me of, yeah, that's really cool. And understanding that it is just the simplest thing of acknowledging someone, that stranger, as you said, smiling at a stranger, that could make their day, and it could even save their life. To know that somebody is paying attention.
Well, and you think about it in the reverse. It's like, think about how over time, like, the unkind words of a parent has the effect on the child for years. Even though in the moment, well, okay, it was just like, you're a jerk or whatever. Just a constant berating, even in really mild terms, has a profound effect over the long term in someone's life. Now, if we reverse that again and look at putting that positive energy, smiles, highs, hugs, great job, attaboys, whatever, those things build up and they're just constant reinforcements of what can be and what is.
And a lot of people are now, especially now, are healing those wounds and understanding. There's negative things. We're just a projection of how they felt about themselves, and we don't have to take it in. And we have to understand that them telling you that may be their way of acknowledging they had a bad day, a hard life, and it is kind of a negative attention. It is attention, and they are noticing what you're doing. It might not be exactly the way you want it, but it also is empowering in the sense that you have the choice of taking it on or not. And I think a lot of the children now are wising up to the fact that they don't have to take it on. And I think a lot of parents aren't really liking that. But in a sense, it's like a balancing of you show me respect, you'll get respect back.
Absolutely. Absolutely, and that goes for everything. That goes for, not just other human beings, but all life. The key word there was respect. We've locked ourselves into this thinking for so long that somehow we exist isolated, to pull yourself up by the bootstraps, doing it by yourself. That, somehow we exist apart from nature and this planet that we live with, not on. And we've lost that respect that we should be having for all things. And in doing so, I think we lose respect for ourselves. We lose respect for that reflection that we see in the mirror. And something I actually wrote about just today, I said, that your body is meant to be a reflection of your soul, not of your flesh. So when you look in the mirror, are you seeing the eternal love of your soul reflected? Are you seeing the fleeting fears of your flesh? What do you see? What illusion are you creating for yourself in that reflection? And I think so often, I think if most people were to be truly honest with themselves, I don't think most in modern culture, it's very hard to have self-respect because the things that we have built our story on as what are meaningful to have that respect, i.e. money, things, they're hollow. Money, for instance, it's a nothing. It literally is a nothing. To say I'm going to make money is to say I'm going to make nothing. Money is and always will be a representation, a means of trade, but this economic system, this reality we've created, this illusion that we exist in, where money has become a real thing, has devalued the real things that matter. The love that we share, these things that we can't quantify with dollar and cents. And why would you? They're incalculably invaluable. It's fascinating to me, and you have more and more people waking up now on Wall Street, and they're realizing that this making money thing became an addiction. That they're going, what am I spending my life doing? I've got more money than I could ever spend. And they're actually in treatment now, overcoming their addiction to money specifically. And this is something that I really wanted people to look at for a while. I was like, stop, just, stop what you're doing for a second. Really look at how you're going about your life. Don't set your goals to acquire, set your goals to achieve. What have I achieved today? What have I accomplished? What is meaningful in my life? What will exist in the universe after I'm gone? Your things won't. But the people's lives you touch, that will. The energy that you put out to the universe, that will continue to go on. And that energy, be it negative or positive, it continues to go on infinitely, as you said earlier. The things here, this in every conceivable way, and I know it really freaks a lot of people out, but it's just true. This isn't real. In every way you can imagine, from the fact that when you get down to a sub-atomic level and you get down to quantum physics, quantum mechanics, there isn't anything there, except somehow everything is still connected through this force, through love. Then if you raise it up to the level we exist at, well, yeah, look around you. We created all of it. Look at like I'm looking out the window right now. On one side I see this pristine, untouched wilderness that just vibrates with life. Even the things that are falling, the leaves, the branches that are going back into the soil, it's all part of the cycle. Then I look at the street and I look at the houses and I see this illusion we create that isn't part of that cycle, that isn't real. All of these things that we exist now today that we could never, or exist with now today, that we could never live without, a lot of them didn't exist 100 years ago. But every system that we have, going back as far as recorded history, we create these things. We create our problems, we create our wars, we create our shortages, we create our fears. All of these things are illusions that we create within the illusion. The thing for me personally that I just every day become more aware of is that all that really is real is this infinite love that connects us with the universe. It's just an ongoing journey that we're a part of. And how exciting is that? Instead of being afraid of the unknown, which so many people are, that fear of dying, embrace it. You're going to die, and I don't mean that in a negative way at all. That's not an ending. It's a certainty, but not an ending. We will continue to go on. Either energy or information is destroyed, and that is what makes this up. Energy, intention, information, love, that is what ends up manifesting and creating all that is ultimately. So it's sort of embracing the unknown. Look at it this way. It's like, okay, today I found that ultimate answer, because what I'm sharing is not an answer. It's a way to be. It's not answering a question. It's just saying this is how I choose to exist in the infinite. Instead of us looking constantly for an ultimate answer. In fact, a funny story. I was listening to a physicist who was on another radio show a couple weeks ago. And he has a new book out, and he was basically exploring relativity as far as, more of a conventional, traditional look at the universe, as opposed to the infinite other dimensions and universes. And he said something that really struck me. He said that, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, the infinite other dimensions of the universe. He goes, but, that's not satisfying. and I could not help but laugh because I thought, wow, if that doesn't sum up humanity's approach to things. We want this satisfaction. We want this ultimate answer. But what would we do if we had it? What would life be? Why would there be a reason to go on if we didn't have this journey to continue to go on, and if we didn't have always more to find? And I guess for as long as I remember, I've always found that thrilling instead of frightening. And I think if more people started to get into that, they would realize they would live their life differently because they wouldn't be living out of fear. They would be living out of abundance. They would be living out a concept of true immortality rather than this illusion of mortality that really has come to mean a lot. It's given me a greater appreciation of actually being alive, of what it means to be infinite, of what it means to be immortal. And again, back to what we were talking about is I get that sense of what that really is. And when I help somebody, you get that feedback and their lives have been changed just through simple words or understanding. And then your lives change. And you go, wow, I've got to become better at this whole thing.
And the interesting thing is, as you were talking, is one of the strongest, and it goes back to your saying about it isn't satisfying, is the human curiosity. And if we were totally satisfied, that curiosity, which to me is fundamental in for really enjoying this journey, is being curious about your fellow man, the child that's playing on the street, on watching your dog sleep, or watching a tree blow in the breeze, the ocean. I mean, it's curious that there's so many things that, once it's answered, is it truly answered? Because we always have to find a way of saying, well, that might be true, but because I agree with you, we cannot satisfy our curiosity. That makes life more interesting. I mean, there's so many people with their bucket list, and it's like, I've completed several bucket lists, but then I go, okay, there's got to be something else I want to do. What else haven't I done yet? And it's like, even in meditation, they said, well, go back to your childhood. What did you want to do as a child? And fulfill your childhood dreams. And it was amazing how many things that I wanted to do still. So it brings out the inner child and the imagination of anything is possible. Once you figure out anything is possible, and just releasing that, understanding that it's only for a limited time. It goes on forever, and the more you build up and be, as they say, in this world but not of this world, your life gets much simpler.
And that's something to really, there are concepts that sound kind of simple on the surface, like what you just said, being in this world and not of it. That is something that is really worth maybe spending, trying to explain a little bit more. I know another concept that when I first read it in Neil Donald Walsh's Conversations with God, the idea of being, not doing. Wow, that, it seems very simple. It took me a while to really understand that. It wasn't until I came up with this thing that I got myself. You can do without being, but you cannot be without doing. So be first and then doing will follow. I get it. Okay. If I choose to be something, or I'm saying I'm going to be this thing, I have to do the things to be that. But if I'm just going about doing, I can go about doing my whole life and never be beat. So it's far more important to be rather than do. And I think that plays into the idea of be in this world but not of it. Choose to be what you want to be in this world. But always remember that this is, in fact, an illusion that you are doing something that, and it is not actually what you are. It is an experience that you've chosen to take, if you believe that, or it's an experience that you need it to take, however you want to look at it, but you're going to have an infinite other experiences. Don't hold on so tightly to this. There's two mindsets that I think are a problem for our species. And one is that we have any control. We don't. Over anything, except the moment we're in. After that, forget about it. And the past really doesn't exist at all. Except there's lessons that we can look back on. And the other one is think, okay, if I accept the fact that the other thing is that we really abhor the idea of change. So instead of saying, I'm going to accept that change happens and I have no control over it, when we do finally accept that change is going to come, then we think we have to control the change. So we are now, rather than being at peace with our existence, we are at war with all parts of being alive. We are surviving. We are not really living. We're not thriving because we're trying to figure out how do I control the inevitable? How do I avoid the unavoidable? How do I control the uncontrollable? You can't. And so the idea of being in this world and not of it, it's about letting go of your illusions. It's about letting go of your illusions of control, of your illusions of ego, and stepping into for me, the greatest thing about having the experience that I had as a child of infinity, it took me a long time to realize what purpose I had. I just knew it was, wow, this is important, and I know what this is, and I'm sharing it with people, and nobody really seems to think it's unimportant and would like me to stop talking about it. And sometimes I even wanted to stop talking about myself, but I couldn't because it became entrenched in me. And it wasn't until recently that the most important thing that experience gave me was perspective. The further off-planet perspective, the further away from yourself you can get and look back in, that's where you start really understanding the idea of being in this illusion and not of it, how the processes work, how everything moves, how everything flows. And that is what I think when you're saying that you want to be in the world and not of it, it's saying have perspective on your own life. Be the observer, be the observer observing, not the participant being observed.
Right. And we both had experience about 12 years old that I think really gave us a strong foundation to truly understand that and ponder for many years to come. And it is the perspective because it's like I had a dream that lasted a month and it was like a movie. And it's now, to me, it's like the entire time it's like, duh, look at life like a movie and watch it. Everything that was in that dream, in that movie, I did experience. But I also know it was just an experience. I wanted to be a part of that movie. I chose to participate. You don't always have to. And a lot of people put a lot of emphasis on, having everything their way, which goes back to control. You can put it out to the universe, but if you trust yourself and the divine, it's going to take you to the right place. And if you try and get in the way, you're just fooling yourself. I've learned that lesson many times when I've tried to over-control things. Literally, the rug gets pulled out and I get a reality check. And it's not to say that I'm a puppet, because none of us really are, but we really are here to have fun and have fun with it and don't take it too seriously, or else you literally become a cosmic joke. To yourself and to anyone around.
I agree, and being a filmmaker and an actor and a writer, I started to really look at things like films, like books, or existences, and saying, okay, I chose to, even though I don't remember doing this, I chose to take on this role, and so I'm going to, live it out to the best of my ability and experience it to its fullest. But again, back to the word satisfaction, that can be really kind of it's been something that hasn't always satisfied me as a concept. It's like I want to believe that it's more meaningful than that, or that no, it's not just some sort of film and I'm just an actor in it. But then I really think about why not? Why isn't that a great experience? I mean, if it really if it was really such a horrible experience, why do we do everything we can to emulate it in our illusion? Why do we then literally within our illusion of illusion create other illusions, which are our manifestations, our creations, our films, our books, or whatever, and create all these characters and tell all these stories? It makes sense to me that that's what this is. It makes sense to me that I am the actor who's said, I auditioned for this role, I got this part, okay, you know what, I'm going for the Oscar in this. and
Literally.
Have fun with it.
And it's just interesting to, it's like many of the experience, I said this a long time ago and had no clue exactly what I was saying till recently, which is each chapter is just an experience and a chapter in the book I'm writing. So it's like I'm living out a chapter of my book to better understand what to write.
Yep. I absolutely do.
And it is, so it kind of relieved me of a lot of stress and a little bit of responsibility, but yet I'm still responsible to write that chapter done. But I also understand the fact that there's many lessons that I've had during all of this, and it's very interesting that once I wrote down that chapter, I was able to move on. And it's like clean slate, I wrote it down, next. And if I didn't write the complete story down, it lingered, and it pulled me back. So it's interesting to have that motivation to, I get to move to the next step if I complete writing the story. So it keeps me going to find new things to experience and not linger too long in something that, been there, done that, what's next? You know, it gives you that opportunity to move forward.
And that's the thing, is like, even though, we had this, shared experience and understanding of infinity, which, honestly, I didn't know was that unusual until I guess it's been about a year ago now, I had gone out and I met with Dr. Dean Radin out at Noetic Sciences. And for anyone who doesn't know, Noetic Sciences is an organization that studies the paranormal, the unexplainable. It was founded by Edgar Mitchell, who's an astronaut, and Dean Radin is one of the leading researchers in parapsychology and other things. Anyway, I went out to meet with him to talk about the possibility of doing a movie about the convergence of science, religion, and spirituality. And during the course of the conversation, I shared with him, my experience of, being taken out of my house, off the planet, out of the solar system, out of the galaxy, out of the universe, until I was turned out toward space, and that was the aha moment, which I did, kind of trite with the aha moment thing, but at 12 I didn't know it was an aha moment. I just thought, this makes me kind of nauseous. This doesn't seem like there can any way be a possible end to this. And the more I went on to have that experience, the more I realized there couldn't be in any conceivable way into anything. And so as I was telling Dr. Radin this story, after I got done, he looked at me and he said, with the most sincere face, he said, that's not a usual experience. And I think that was, in fact, I know that was the first time in my life that it really sunk into me how, sublime, divine, how truly unbelievable or life-changing, life-informing that experience was. And as and it's funny, like as you're talking about, us writing a story, it's the whole concept of infinity. Now, for me, there's infinity, and then there are infinite things within infinity. For instance, you and I are infinite things within infinity. Time is an infinite thing within infinity. It is not infinity itself. Infinity is everything that is infinite within infinity. It's all infinite creation. It's all infinite time, all infinite experiences, anything you can possibly imagine, all happening all at once, infinitely. And I'm always the wonderful thing about having that understanding is that every time you think, well, okay, I just wrote this story, I just played this role. Well, at a certain point, I'm going to run out of experiences now. I'm going to run out of, at least this is how my head goes sometimes. And I'll go, hold on. Then something will happen. I'll be reminded of how truly vast this idea of infinity is. And trust me, I can understand it and say, I had no way to comprehend it. I never will be able to. I could live a billion lifetimes. I would be no closer to comprehending infinity than I am right at this moment. But one of those things that gave me that sense of its vastness was there's a documentary out on the discovering, they actually documented the discovering of the Higgs boson particle. And they were with all the physicists while they were going about, doing, waiting to actually find a particle, which turns out it's not a particle, it's actually a particle in the field, and so that means there's smaller things. Well, anyway, they needed to measure this because one measurement would confirm that the laws of physics as we know them under relativity exist, and the other would mean that the laws of the multi-dimensional universe, the infinite multiverse, infinite other dimensions would exist. So at one end of the spectrum, you had this measurement, and you did kind of 115 to say that, the laws of physics were intact, blah, 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 that the laws of relativity worked, and anyway, what we know is. And at the other end, you would need a measurement of 145. Well, it came in at 125. And which I found funny. I thought the universe just has a great sense of humor. It's not going to give you the answer, guys. I know you want it. But you can do all your measurements, all your calculations, all your math problems, and at the end of the day, you're going to still come back with more questions. That's awesome. But what it got me thinking about was, so within this tiniest of tiny things, there are infinite other universes, tinier and tinier things. There are other universes with us, or things like us, or living beings having these conversations within these tiny things that we are just now being able to measure. And it goes in the opposite direction too, but that put a face on it for me when I went, okay, so if in fact this is measured at 145 and they could say that this for sure was, infinite other dimensions, then that means within this particle there are infinite other things. There are infinite other experiences within your experience. You make a choice one way or another, and you create a whole new reality. And you are making those other choices. You may not realize it because you've made the choices you're making now. But within our infinite experiences, there are infinite experiences. And it just goes on to the point where you start to have that sort of out-of-body feeling where you start to realize there's no way that this can be me having this experience. Who is me saying that I am questioning me having this experience? Where am I? Well, then you come back to I am soul. I am infinite. I am everywhere right now, choosing to put my attention on this one experience, choosing to forget all of these other things so that I can remember and learn and grow and really, like you said earlier, enjoy being here, enjoy being on this truly miraculous planet, in this truly miraculous universe that we are innately and infinitely part of. And I think that having that perspective brings me in times when I lose sight of things, when I can go back to that as my foundation. It's a very strange foundation. But when I go back to that foundation, it gives me comfort. It gives me comfort because I know that when I start looking at my little life here, and I look back, and not only don't I know what's going to happen after it's over, I don't know what it was before either. And you just keep going. It's not these stories, like you were saying, that we were writing, that we're telling, that we're acting in. You can't imagine how unimaginable what we have yet to experience is that we are going to experience at some point. The stories that we're going to tell for ourselves, they are truly never ending.
They really are. amazing situations, and there's so many things that are possible. I mean, I've done past regressions and forward regressions, and yet, to me, they kind of blend into one. I realize that we're at the time that all timelines are becoming infinite, so they're all collapsing into one. So I might have had a past life in 1735, but reality, it's now, because there is no time. It's
Yep.
just the illusion of time. So
Yep.
it just is expressing the experience I wanted to have.
You know,
And that's it.
the new cosmos, last time I touched on that, the idea of what time is. And he did it in a really cool way where it started to give you this idea of what we're seeing isn't real, and that how time actually works is basically an office manager for us, because we could not handle the fact that ultimately infinity is this oneness that everyone always refers to, and the fact of infinity being what it is means that nothing can be added to or subtracted from it, and that everything that is happening is all happening at once. But the way he described how we use this as a means to visualize things, he also described how everything that we're visualizing, even things that are close up to us, are all things have already happened. For instance, when we look at the moon, we are not seeing the moon. We are seeing the moon 2 seconds in the past. What we are visualizing of the moon is 2 seconds in the past. And he went planet by planet and said, like, for Jupiter or for Neptune, that's 400 years in the past by the time the light, or 4 years in the past by the time the light reaches us, and so on and so forth. And he did it incrementally to show you that the further away you get, the farther into the past you actually go from the light you're seeing, out to, the very oldest galaxies that they can see, which date back, 15 billion years. We're witnessing literally the past by seeing that light. Well, up close, even in this conversation, there are nanoseconds of delay before you hear my words, before we have this experience. So everything that we're experiencing that we perceive of even as now is already in the past. So how do you determine how you experience the moment? Well, you predetermine. So do you predetermine that I'm going to be helpful, loving, healing, or am I going to be fearful, harmful, destructive? And you have to determine those things before that moment comes. You have to determine, back to the idea of being, you have to determine what you're going to be, not what you're going to do. And what you are, what you decide to be, is determined before the moment. Otherwise, you have literally you at the whim of time. Time that has already passed you by the time you experience the moment. If that makes any sense.
And that's why I think so many spiritual teachers are stressing, really understand what you're feeling in that moment. And you have a choice of how you're feeling. If you want to be sad, claim it. Say you're sad. If you want to be happy, choose to be happy. And there's so many people that I talk to that it's like, when is life going to change for me? I always say, when you choose for it to change, it's up to you. And they want somebody outside of them to change it for them. And it's like, that is always going to be your responsibility of how you feel, how you respond, react, and what you put forward. So, I just made the decision I'm always going to be happy, I'm always going to help, I'm always going to be present, and, and just be very able to do what I do and do it to the best of my ability and see where it goes. If the more you put positive energy out, the more it comes back in some form.
All you can do is decide what you're going to be. And then once you've made that decision, the rest will unfold as it's supposed to. And that is truly all you can do is decide how I'm going to experience this existence. How am I going to go through this illusion? Am I going to go through this in misery and suffering? Or am I going to go through this being happy? Am I going to go through this being loving? I know from our private conversations, lest anyone thinks that where I'm at today, speaking for myself, came, was delivered on a silver platter, and I was laying down in a bed of roses and, gosh, life is wonderful. I love everything. This has been hard fought. This has been something where I've suffered great losses. I have so many. I've got a book that I just finished writing that I'm in the process of editing called The Eternal Journey of Being, and the point. I share a lot of my life in the book, and the point to sharing my life was not that I felt any great need to tell my story, because I didn't, but I felt it important that I share my experiences so that people could, when they read the book and they get to the payoff at the end, where I talk about everything that we're talking about here today, that they understand that, wow, he went through that, I went through that. Wow, he was addicted, I was addicted. Wow, and he got over and he has this attitude based on that. He lost loved ones. I lost loved ones. He had an abusive childhood. I had an abusive childhood. And he's come to this understanding, and he still feels this way about life. Oh, maybe I need to reevaluate. Maybe I need to think that I can look at life differently, no matter what cards I've been dealt. And then look at those cards once you get to that understanding, and look at them as the greatest blessings of all. Because if you really want to help people, for me personally, what I found is that it's one thing to go to school to learn to talk to people about, let's say, addiction or say loss. It's another thing to be able to look at somebody and say, I understand, and then know it comes from a place of shared experience. That is the most tremendous blessing that anyone can have, and I wouldn't change anything in my life because I wouldn't have that gift if I hadn't gone through everything I've gone through, to be able to now, when I talk to people about everything that we're talking about here today, infinity, love, and helping, for them to then go, okay, I get it. This is a real choice. My life can be like that. I can't tell you how I've learned to look at all those things as the greatest blessings that I could ever have.
And it's really interesting that we both have had really extreme experiences early on that really helped us build the foundation that we're on now. And it's like I still do. I consider myself a dabbler, and I know it's because I want to experience everything I can in this life and have fun at doing it. It's part of understanding that we help through our experience by saying, been there, done that, let's get you in a better place.
Yep.
And having that feeling that you're acknowledging where they are and being the example of where they can be. With their own experience, they're growing, they're learning, they're experiencing, they're making choices. And you can change at a drop of a hat everything.
Yep. Now that doesn't mean to say either that things instantly get perfect for you, but the way that you experience those things changes instantly. And another thing that is extremely important, at least for me, when I'm talking with people who, and literally it's amazing, I have people from all over the world reach out to me, and they'll just start talking to me, and I'll get drawn into a conversation. I automatically take those conversations wherever they come up very seriously. I don't ever, it's just on Facebook. If I'm going to choose to get into that conversation, you're saying I need help and I want to talk to you, then I don't care if you're next door or, if it's in person, whatever. It's like these conversations are meaningful, and I put a lot of thought into them. And one of the things that I always do when I get involved in these conversations, because a lot of times we can forget what we once were, and that doesn't mean to hold on to the past and regret, but always I like to have my reminders, because when I'm talking with people and I'll start to feel maybe frustrated with the conversation, like they're just not getting it, or we're having the same conversation, I stop. I'll go, I am them. I remember being that person. And for me, that is such an important element of helping and healing and forgiving, is to always look at that other person, that other being, and realize they are you in every conceivable way. If you, there's obviously something that they're reaching out to, that they recognize in yourself, and if you look closely, they've come into your life as a reminder, again, of something that you went through. You're there to further, back to, almost the beginning of the conversation, in helping them, you recognize that thing maybe you need reinforced in yourself once again. And in telling them how to get through it, you remind yourself how you got through it, how you got here today. So, all these little pebbles that we keep picking up, they have to pull out of a bag every once in a while. Oh, I remember where I picked that one up. Yeah. Before, as we're sharing it, as we're saying, here's how I got to where I'm going. Here's a pebble for you. Remember how you got that pebble.
Exactly. And understand that everyone that comes into your life is the mirror, is that reflection. In a way, some perspectives are always going to have some kind of connection with anyone and everybody that we run into, only because we are part of the oneness, and we're here to all experience living and understanding for far more than what we're experiencing.
Absolutely.
And just, and go on.
Oh, no. I wasn't sure if you were going to interrupt you.
Go for it, man.
No, I agree. It's such, this experience is so much bigger than we allow it to be. We choose to make the experience of being alive very small. And we've continued to make it smaller and smaller. We've now gone from our ancient ancestors, who is really, we got to where we're at today because they observed so well. If they hadn't taken the time to look out, to look out at the heavens, to look out at the night, to start paying attention to how everything works, we wouldn't have anything that we have today. And we don't often take time to really think about that. We don't do that. Our lives, I think, compared to our ancestors' lives, and despite all our technology and our whiz-bang gadgets, the fact is we live smaller, I think, now than maybe ever before in some ways, because we're not out observing the real. We're not out taking in the universe, the night sky, nature. We're not taking that time to really just immerse ourselves in. Instead, we're immersed in our own illusion. And our illusion, no matter how great we want to make it, is never as big as the illusion that's been manifested out there, that's been manifested that we exist in. We are a small, tiniest part of this. Not to say we're unimportant, but we're no more important than anything else. But when we think that we've created something grand, look out at the night sky. Step off the planet. Or lay down in the grass, put your face in the dirt, jump in the ocean, then and float, and then really immerse yourself in that experience and go, oh my gosh, what I'm experiencing in front of my television, in front of my computer, and driving down the road is such a small part of what it is. It is almost incomprehensibly smaller than even our existence here on this planet, let alone the experience of infinity itself. But we've shrunken ourselves down, and that I think shows in how we go about relating to one another and connecting with one another. How we become even more apart than we ever have before. I was listening yesterday, actually, and I was coming back from the city to a history professor had a new book out on Thomas Paine, and they were talking about his belief in the commons, which is an idea where essentially we all help one another. We believe that there's certain things that are good for all people to take part in. He was a big proponent of that. He, took on the English government. He actually looked at landowners who didn't look at their land as prostitutes. He actually called them whores. If you're forcing other people to do your work and you're not doing anything, you're just lounging, then you're literally described as whores. Because he believed so much in this idea of the commons, where we would farm the land together, we would harvest together, everybody would get, a certain amount, everybody would have what they needed to live with. And even the idea that he came up with, and I think part of his understanding of why he was so passionate about that, came from the fact that he was an astronomer. The whole idea of revolution meant to him that when he would look up at the night sky, he would see how everything revolved and moved, and it's revolution. And he realized that we needed to function like that. So again, I don't think, spend nearly enough time looking out at what is. Instead, we're experiencing things in our, in this shell that we've created for ourselves in this little bubble. And then it's so much bigger than that. Even this existence is so much bigger than this tiny bubble that we've blown for ourselves.
So with that, I wanted to ask you the question because it's at the top of my head. How did you choose what you want to experience? I mean, do you really literally just wait till something shows up? Or do you actively say, okay, this is this is the show I want to produce, this is what I want to have a role in, this is what I want to write? Do you actively go after, or do you just sit back and say, all right, universe, what's next?
Well, you used the word dabbler earlier. I think I have a master's degree in dabbling.
Isn't it fun?
I can't help it. It's like if something touches me or I find it interesting, I'll want to go do it. And it's literally that simple. I think I must have been a fish in another life, because every shiny thing, wow, that's cool. I'm going to go check that out. What's that about? And if it's interesting, I'll stick with it. If not, then I'll move on to something else. But it's literally like what I will find fascinating. What do I want to take in today? What do I want to learn? I don't know. Back to what you were talking about people making bucket lists or the check marks for things that they want in a relationship. I find those things really funny. I've never been like that. I meet the people that I fall in love with because I'm open to having that experience, because there's something, just like everything else, that fascinates me, that draws me to that being. And it's the same thing with every experience in life. It's like, okay, I want to check that out. That sounds really fascinating to me. By the same token, there's a lot of things that I really wish I didn't have to ever have presented in my consciousness on a daily basis. So much of this unnecessary drama. These things don't interest me at all. Politics doesn't interest me at all. Our economic system does not interest me at all. Wars don't interest me at all. I don't want to hear the excuses for going to war. I don't want to know about your technologies for going to war. I don't want to hear any more of your made-up economic fantasies. I don't want to hear your politicking, and I don't want to hear about your grand designs that you think you're doing for the greater good when you're not. If a system is so flawed, any system, the American system, the Chinese system, whatever system you're looking at, if your country, if your way of being is so flawed that you have to go through all these machinations of control to tell yourself that you're doing it because you're doing it for the system that supports all of these things, then your system doesn't and shouldn't exist. It should stop me because there's a better way. And, so, like I said, conversely, as to the things that draw me to them, I'm also repelled by a lot of things. So it's not like everything I see, I go, oh, I want to go do that. I want to feel like what it is to, go off to war today. I want to, there's just as many things that fascinate me. There's many things that don't.
So, as you are achieving the things, has there ever been something that you chose to experience and say, okay, why did I choose this? What was I thinking? That you consciously chose, not something that just happened.
Yes, and more often than not, the why did I do this moment comes from, and I'm sure people could say this in reverse about me as well. It will come from the people I'm dealing with, who will take an experience that I was fascinated by, but because of who they are, it takes all the enjoyment out of it for me, and I'm like, why did I do this? Why did I not see the writing on the wall with this person? Why did I not see that this was not going to be a good situation for me to be in because of the people involved with the situation? Because for the most part, when I meet people, I'm open, and I only, it's just where I've always been. I tend to always see the good in people. I always see potential in people. I don't look at myself as above anyone else. I don't think I'm smarter than anyone else. And then I'll get involved in the relationships, and I'll realize how much different sometimes people are as far as their approach. And there are things that, like I said, I don't want to experience. Maybe it won't be the actual thing that I want to experience, but the experience itself because of the whole package. And again, usually that will be more centered around personal conflict rather than what I was drawn to initially. And I've had that experience recently where, you know, the people management side of stuff is exhausting for me, especially if people don't want to hear it. They want to just create conflict all the time. You know, that's a challenge. And then I have to always go back to what I say when you're helping people. It's like, what is there something in this person that I'm so frustrated by that is like me? Is there something I'm supposed to be observing? I don't believe that's always true, but I do think it's always something that we should look at. Some people are just here having a different experience, like, and they're part of what makes this illusion that we're having happen. You know, for instance, I've even tried to find the sunny side of ditching. Hard to do. But I think, wow, you know, because we're all souls on this journey, and I think, what a tremendous sacrifice he's made by choosing to have the experience of being ditching. He's put himself in that role of the opposite, so that it makes this experience work. Because if everything was perfect, well, we wouldn't be having this experience. And it's important for us to have this experience. It's important for us to learn to appreciate our immortality. It's important for us to learn to appreciate what life is in a way that unless you don't think you're always going to have it, you never will. And even people like Dick Cheney, they're so engrossed in their fear of dying, of their illusions of control, but we kind of need them, don't we? And so I'll look at people that are challenging my life. It's like, do I need them in my life? Are they going to make me better? And you know what? I have to always come back and say, yeah, you know what? I'm going to take on this challenge. I'm going to figure out a way to make this work. I'm going to work through it. But having said that, there's sometimes I'm like, I'll wake up. I don't want to do this. I can't do this. I can't deal with that. No. I know it's going to be another argument. I know it's going to be another hassle. It doesn't have to be. But that's about the only time I really feel like, wow, why did I step into this?
And with that, we're going to take a few minutes and listen to our song because we need to break up the show a little bit, and then we will continue the conversation. So with Jennifer Hillman, this is Air. With each breath of air, we hope you gain new insight and information. Enjoy the song. everyone. This is Helen and this is Air. We are continuing the conversation with kip-Baldwin on infamy and the choices we make in love and the things around us to help us grow and experience life in the highest ways we can, and really appreciating each moment with the depth that is available to us. So, Kip, welcome back. And
hi, Jennifer. It's been so long. Gosh, it's so good to hear your voice.
And it's been like a whole minute or two.
I missed you. Gosh, it's so good to hear you.
It's good to have a conversation with you. And it's to me, we're talking about choices and things with the infamy, and that we do have choices to make. And like you were saying, there's a choice to really clue into other people to see what they are here for you. And everybody else outside is kind of like an actor in your script, in your little experience. And do you feel that with that, and you were saying in the conversation that there's at times you go, God, I wish it was different. I know this is how it's going to be. Do you think you have any insight of ways to change the situation to a better way than past lessons, shall we say? Or is that what lessons are for? Is so you do learn there's a different way you can kind of weasel through this. It's not as bad.
It was funny when we were on break. I went and noticed checking some social media stuff, and automatically I opened up Facebook, and Rumi came up. Love generates love. So I thought that was a great way for us to lead into the next hour of our conversation. I don't know. You know, I don't think I can change anything. I think things happen as they're supposed to. It's just like we were talking about how I choose to be when those situations come up. I think we always face challenges, and then it's just our needing to be the best version of ourselves, the best vision of ourselves in that moment. And all we can do is try. I fall short all the time of who I know I am, which sounds odd, but you get drawn back into this. And in fact, there was a Buddhist teacher who was on Oprah a couple weeks back, and he went over all the Buddhist teachings on how to live life, and Oprah said, she said, is that how you live your life? And he said, on my good days. And that really resonated with me, because I feel like on my good days, everything's perfect. I can make everything wonderful. On my bad days, I'm not as tolerant sometimes. I'm not as empathetic as I should be sometimes. I'll get too drawn into the illusion on sometimes. Some days I'll forget to, have that off-world experience, that observer experience, and this will become real to me. And on those days, it's much more of a challenge than on the days where I can look at this as a really great book, as a really great film, as a really great play that I'm a part of. On those days, it's great because I really can let go. I don't have the tie to fear that I do when I start to believe this is real. So I guess that same sort of detachment works well in those challenging moments. When I find myself, I try to remind myself to go there. I can't always. Sometimes it's just you get overwhelmed with the energy of the other person or the situation you're in. And in those times, the best thing that I could advise you to do is to leave. Give yourself a breath. Walk away for a moment. Get perspective again. Get your detachment. Get your concern back, where you're approaching is not from a me perspective, but from a they perspective, a we perspective, where you're seeing the larger picture, where you're not just caught in that moment and that emotion that's being fueled by the situation, by that person that too easily becomes self-replicating. That too easily are those emotions right up in us, and now we're enhancing those negative feelings of someone else, and they're enhancing our negative feelings to the point where if we don't stop, then it turns into something else entirely. Maybe that relationship that could have grown and gone somewhere had we stopped and just taken the breath. Now we've crossed the line. Now we've gone into manifesting illusions about things that the original upset had nothing to do with. And nothing good stays from me from trying to argue away through a situation. Nothing good stays from being in that bad energy place. You're not going to, it's not a problem solving place, it's a problem creating place. So walk away. I mean, if you don't have any solutions in the moment, that's okay. You've got infinity to figure stuff out. But know when to walk away.
And it's interesting you should say that, because I'm becoming more aware of the situations. Like, if I'm worried for money, all of a sudden everybody around me comes to me and say, I'm really worried about money and paying this and this. And then as soon as I realized I switched it, and then everybody else is calm. It was interesting to really get and see and understand the energy that I was putting out. And I wasn't talking about it. I was just feeling it. And the vibration went out. And I was able to, once I figured out what that vibration was, raise my vibration up and switch what I was attracting in my life. And right. I think that's what a lot of the lessons I've learned is get conscious of what I'm feeling, what I'm thinking, and understand what I'm putting out. I'm going to get back one way or another. And being really more conscious of what is and what I am actively participating in, because I always have a choice.
Eckhart Tolle was talking about on his show the other week about how it's so important to stop and really get that sense of yourself in the moment. Feel your breath going into your lungs. And like you were saying, not everybody's in meditation. I like to meditate. Sometimes I don't want to come back from meditation. But you were saying not everybody can do that. But he said everyone can take that moment. Feel your fingers. Feel the energy tingling in your body. Then realize that energy that you're feeling is connected to all the energy around you. And then you can just feel engulfed by your connection to everything. And just starting with that breath, that sensation in your hand, it releases you from that anxiety that you might be having. At least it does.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was reading some animal cards, and I pulled one and I got turtles, and it literally says, take a moment, take off your shoes, and feel the bottom of your feet connected to Mother Earth. Just take that moment to ground yourself. It instantly shifts your energy. I mean, if I'm really feeling anxiety, I said, all right, it's time to put on some music because my body's jumping. Let's get some music and just dance. Change it. Make me, feel something more, get in a better rhythm with what I truly am wanting to experience in the moment instead of letting it kind of control me. Because somebody else is really anxiety, has a lot of anxiety around you, you will pick it up. And it's, like you said, that detachment to what's around you and inside you to see if it's really helping you or not.
Absolutely. I mean, connecting with our animal guides is so important. Before the interview, I mentioned here that we talked about turkey being the giveaway eagle and vulture. Well, I had an experience yesterday. As I mentioned here, I volunteer to take care of the park rangers' horses out in Mill Valley. And for the past few weeks, every morning I go out there and there's turkey, which is an incredibly powerful Native American totem. They called it the giveaway eagle because it gave its body away to the tribe. So it's all about giving back. It's all about everything that we've been talking to this point. Well, as if it wasn't already being ingrained in me that this is where my joy comes, this is where my happiness comes from. I got up yesterday morning and I'm watching the sun come up, and I started to hear my turkeys, and I'm getting ready to go work with the horses. Well, now there's 3 tom turkeys, 6 hens, and I just sat down in the dirt road and started watching them. Next thing I know, here comes one of the hens right up to me. Then one of the toms comes up, all floated out. Then I'm surrounded by 3 tom turkeys and a hen, literally within me being able to reach out to touch. And they just walked up to me. And I was going, okay, that's about as powerful.
Yeah.
You need to keep doing what you're doing.
That's
it's really remarkable when you look for the signs that are there, when you look for the messages. More and more, I'm convinced that we are nowhere near the most intelligent species on this planet, despite all of our technology. I think when you really take time to learn animal language or just experience their energy and hear the lessons that they're trying to teach us, they're so much more intelligent than we are. I mean, a good kind of real world example of that puts a physical face on that thought is you look at the tsunami in Thailand. And I just watched the movie Impossible, and then there was a story that we watched on National Geographic about Minong, this little elephant that saved this little girl from being taken away by the tidal wave. All the animals, only people died. None of the wild animals died. How is it, and including the native people that lived there, a lot of the people that actually lived on the island didn't pay attention to the fact that the water went out like it never gone before. Instead, they rushed in, started to take up the fish. Meanwhile, elephants were gone. All the birds had flown. All the wild animals were gone. So, again, tell me how we're more intelligent, even in a practical way. If we're not even able to live and understand the signs that this planet gives us to protect ourselves, what good is all our technology? What good is all our visions of power and control, all these illusions that we have of ourselves? Does that really, I remember a long time ago, I had this guitar player I was working with, who's actually from Hawaii. And we got into this conversation about, does it, and I was specifically talking about dolphins, and I said, I think dolphins are more intelligent than we are. And he said, yeah, they can't make guns, they can't do this, they can't do that. I said, okay, so which is more intelligent? The fact that you can live at one with your environment, in harmony with the planet that you're on, or the fact that you're living in dissonance and discord and apart from your planet, that you can create all this stuff, which is the greater intelligence?
Exactly.
You know?
I mean, if you think there are more and more stories on the news about dogs, cats, saving people's lives because they know something's up. The one thing that I learned from my dogs a long time ago, if my dogs don't like someone, I pay attention. Because they know something about the character. They're able to sense a person's true intentions.
Yep.
And so I learned a long time ago, and I had cicadas for many years. And I think it's Socrates that says, animals are the philosophers of the world, but dogs are. And they know better how to live in balance with this world. Animals overall, we can learn so much just by following what they're doing. And I do believe that now we're beginning to get the understanding as if something is beginning to disappear, we are saying, okay, something is wrong here to correct. Often it's too late. Like the black rhino supposedly is gone, which is sad. And we've been watching them deteriorate and we just let it go. But there are many forms that were thought to be extinct now are showing up again. So it's very interesting that the cycle of life on Earth will continue. as everybody was so worried about the end of the world. But it's a new paradigm, and I think that it is time for us to really sit back in nature and saying, all right, what do you got to teach me? So that I got more.
And
there's so much more to learn from them.
And that touches on something interesting, the idea of extinction. As much as it's something I've been giving a lot of thought to, as much as we're afraid of our own personal extinction or death, we seem infinitely more concerned about the extinction of our entire species, which I find really interesting because we spend so much time trying to hasten our extinction's arrival, yet we don't want it. So there's this weird schizophrenia that exists around how we create our civilization. It's like on one hand, we're horrified of dying. We're horrified of all of us going extinct, yet we don't do anything to stop it. In fact, we're doing everything to aid it. And at the end of the day, it's okay. As I said earlier, it's okay. We're going to change. We're going to pass on. We're going to become something new. Everything will. These ideas that we have, these fantasies we create, whether you look at the guys in the tech world, and they're all, I'm going to download myself into the singularity, I'm going to put, and I'm going to have this other reality, and I'm never going to die. Yes, you are. I don't care how advanced your technology is. Simple fact, the sun is eventually going to burn out. Any sun we go find to inhabit a planet around will eventually burn out. Eventually, 2 trillion years from now, the stars will have drifted out so far in the night sky, you won't see any stars anymore. So this idea that in any way that we will continue to be as we are, even in the sense that we will be able to maintain this one vision of ourselves through consciousness and create some alternative reality within the machine, well, for me, a couple of things. One, you're doing that anyway by dying. You're going to another reality, creating another reason to live in. 2, what's powering your technology? If you're looking at it from a tech standpoint, like I tell my friends who are way into that, I'll say, well, you still need someone here to chop wood for you. And I'm perfectly fine doing that in the acoustic world. Because all of these things are still stories we're telling ourselves that somehow we're not going to die. Somehow we are not going to become extinct. And I think if we were to accept those things, we'd live better than we do. We would cherish this existence more than we do, because right now we're not really living, we're surviving. We're doing everything we can not to die, but we're not actually enjoying living, thriving in this existence the way we would as individuals or as a species. Because when we then look at, in just the same way as an individual does everything it can to want to create some sort of permanent immortality for itself, meaning that a permanent immortality in this body, in this form, which is impossible. Everything changes. It doesn't, you're not going to be this way all the time. On a larger scale, civilizations do the same thing. So we divide up borders and we say, okay, I'm going to, maintain for mine. And if they go away, that's fine. We need to make sure our borders are safe. We need to make sure our culture is sound. Not realizing that it's all codependent. We all have to help one another. What you do in China affects me here. What I do here affects you in Russia, and so on and so forth. This idea that there's somehow ways that we can separate this is ultimately only hastening this demise that we're terrified of. Meanwhile, what we're really saying by not wanting by saying that even if I die, I want my species to go on, we're acknowledging that connection to one another. We're acknowledging that we want to continue to be, not just as individuals, but as a collective. Yet I don't think we're actually telling ourselves that consciously. But underlying, that is the drive, that's driving us. That's driving us to do the things that we think will save ourselves, but they're ultimately destroying us because we're not accepting the what if. We're not accepting that things change, that everything changes, and that's okay. It's all part of life's process.
Well, there is, they often say what is going to be your legacy? And I often say, you know, it could be the words that I write, but I think it's more how I make somebody feel. It's in a sense, being unforgettable. That person that you inspire by that smile, that lasting impression you put by, I mean, we both are on Facebook and a lot of social media, and we both, I know you get a lot of feedback saying, thank you so much, it's so inspirational, I really appreciate everything you put on, because it's just what I needed to hear. That's making a difference in the world. And I get that message all the time. But yesterday somebody was saying, you put the best inspirational quotes up, Jen. I don't know where you get them from, but you always hit the mark. If it resonates with me, it's going to resonate with someone else.
Exactly, and it may not resonate with everyone, but even if it's just that one person, that's meaningful. That's incredibly important, because that one person will touch somebody else, and so on and so forth. But yeah, and you know, the funny thing is people get so caught up in the words. What the lasting memory is, what the lasting legacy is, isn't the word, it's the feeling. And it's always about the energy that's created from what you create, never about what you create.
I think that something that you've experienced, and I know I have, is you write something and there's almost like a high vibration that comes off of what you said. And it's not necessarily the actual words, but there's a feeling that is put behind the words that really does make that impression.
Right. For me, I know, like, the way what I write comes to me usually is that I'll meditate and something will come to me during the meditation. That's what I post every day. Sometimes, like, you know, I'll get, like, when I'm sitting there watching the sun come up with the horses and the turkeys while I'm inspired to write, and that I'll share. But for the most part, it comes every day as I meditate, and I'll know, like, I'll write it and I'll have a ton of ideas on things to write, and I'll get quiet. And that one thing will come through very clear, and it will say that's what you write. And the same thing when I look for pictures to go with, you know, what I write. I'll look for a long time. I mean, until that one picture just says, yep, that's the one. I don't know where it comes from. I stopped even thinking about it. I know it's not from me. I know it's coming from other places, and I feel so blessed that it's gifted to me to share. That you know, that I'm being asked to think about things like this in order that I can reach people. I take no ownership for any of it, you know.
But it's just amazing how many times I'll go back to things that I've written and go, wow, that's really amazing. I wonder who really wrote that. Because it's like an out-of-body experience when I write. And just, it is such a blessing. That is when I feel the most blessed, is when I'm able to write it and share it. And I don't even necessarily need the feedback, but the vibration that I'm putting out is most important to me, that it is very positive and very reaffirming and reassuring that everything we're living through is temporary and we'll get through it.
I had a really interesting experience within the past couple of weeks, for an observation that made me look more at mortality versus immortality, how we appreciate life. And it came about, you know, along the lines of how we get inspired or we inspire. It came from kind of an unusual source. It wasn't something I always spend a lot of time thinking about. I wish I could remember her name, but there's this woman who communes with angels, and it's not, she doesn't do it in the sense of like biblical or religious aspect, not that there's anything wrong with that. Whatever works for people, I'm 110% supportive of. As long as it's all about helping one another, caring for one another, whatever your belief system is, that's awesome. I mean, never take anything away from anyone else's belief at all. But she wasn't coming at it from a religious perspective. She was coming at it from, angels were like other beings, basically, that who were having a different experience, and there were different types of angels. And she was describing, like, Michael. She said, he's always the angel of fire and, vengeance and blah. And she said, no, he loves the sun. He's like the surfer angel. I was getting a kick out of her description. And then they turned around to talk about Lucifer. And she said, no, he didn't. There was no hell. He didn't go to hell. But he did really dislike man. He really disliked man because he perceived that man had brought imperfection to his paradise. This caught my attention. And he wanted us destroyed. And it wasn't until a young angel spoke up and said, but how can imperfection come from perfection? That resonated with me on a couple levels. One, it made me really look at myself again and the world around me in another way and say, this is perfect. This is absolute perfection. This is the experience that we're supposed to be having, even though sometimes it's hard. But it's just like I was saying earlier about my own life. I've gone through a lot of things in my life that, I think in the moment you'd say, God, I can't get through this. This is horrid. But looking back, I would never change those experiences. Couldn't it be that these experiences will look back at some point in our infinite existence the same way? Gosh, I'm so glad I have this experience here now because it's made me this thing I am, in my next existence, my next delusion, whatever. And I started looking at it from Lucifer's perspective and thinking about the story that came to me was that he then chose to come to earth, not to hell, but to have the experience of what it meant to not be in paradise, where everything was perfect, where he wasn't immortal, where he wasn't that close to the source. And in doing so, it gave him, and this is where the story was coming to my mind, I really put myself in his experience, or her experience, because they're gender neutral. And I started thinking about what a true blessing it is to have this experience of forgetting that you're not going to die. Because as I become aware that I'm not going to die, I wouldn't have the appreciation for life that I do now had I not gone through this experience of facing my mortality. And I think that all sorts, we have experiences of all sorts of beings. And as maybe an angel, you come here and you learn a greater appreciation from that heaven, that paradise that you existed in. Maybe not took for granted, but didn't fully understand it, even though you thought you did. You thought you did to the point where you could summarily dismiss some new creation that manifested, some new being that manifested, simply because it didn't fit into your idea of what perfection was. And that's an angel having that perception. So think about it from a human perspective and how little we know. Well, we question the perfection of this. Who are we to question the perfection of the experience that we've chosen to have to help us grow, to help us ascend? The role that we chose to play because it looked maybe just interesting to us. Who knows? But I do know that this experience for me personally has given me a greater ability to embrace my immortality, to embrace the infinite in a way that I honestly don't feel that if I hadn't had everything that I've gone through my life, overcoming the fear of mind, overcoming all these things that we go through as mortal or seemingly mortal beings in this illusion. Once you get past that, you go, my God, this is the greatest blessing of all. I'm now going to spend my eternity, and every time I'm going to have that pebble. I'm going to hold it in my hand and go, that's what it felt like to be mortal. How glorious is this?
And it really, when I was in a car accident, I know I've mentioned this before, but I went to literally the void of creation, and all I heard was, you are loved and loved. Don't forget that. And it made such a huge difference of understanding. That's what we're here about, is love and appreciating everything that we're given. And understanding that there is no reason to really be upset about anything, because it truly is temporary. even being in the void of creation was a temporary experience, but it made a huge difference in the perspective of how I was living my life. Did I necessarily want to be in a head-on collision with a drunk driver? Not necessarily, but it served a purpose. And it was a very interesting experience that opened my eyes to a lot of different things that I really hadn't thought about.
Yeah.
So with everything that you have experienced, and, you know, I just keep getting the sense that you have this urgency, and I do mean an urgency within you to teach. Do you think you've always had that feeling that it's time to teach?
I really, it's funny that you say that. I do feel that, and I think that for me, it's like I don't take that, that's not a frivolous idea to me, to be a teacher. It's something that I don't take that idea lightly, and probably why I haven't, maybe pursued it on a larger scale yet. Is that, one, I wanted to be very comfortable in my understanding, and I also wanted to get to a point where it's as much as possible. The man who says he's egoless has the biggest ego ball. I want to get to a point where I have as little ego involved in it as possible. But for me, it's like I take it really seriously, and I want to make sure that I'm clear on what I understand and what I've remembered, and what I want to what I want to be able to share with people when I teach them, because I do feel that there's a lot that I need to share that would be helpful for people. And on a smaller scale, like I said, I do it all the time. It was something you and I were actually talking a little bit about. Sometimes it's also tough from just a practical standpoint, with the world being the way it is, to figure out how you go about, making an existence in this world, doing that. So that, that's the more practical challenge, but most of it comes down to me is that I really wanted to get to a place where I feel grounded enough to be a good teacher, to be a good listener, to be somebody not telling, but to be somebody showing, and saying, here's an idea, where you go with it from here is up to you, but here's what I learned along the way. Here's how to think, not what to think. And that's really, I think, as much as anything, what I'd like people to, be able to teach people, is really to teach them how to think. What they do with that information is then up to them. I want to share my experience and say, here's how I've gotten to where I'm at, which is ever evolving. We're all ever works in progress. But I would like people to know that don't lock yourself in a box of what you've been told. Nobody knows anything. There's an old, it's been said by many cultures, I think probably saying that it came from Sanskrit, because that's what Joseph Campbell written in one of his books, but the man who says he knows doesn't. The man who says he doesn't know does. And that goes back to, I think, Plato said something similar to that effect as well. It's kind of been a common theme of wise men throughout history, is to get to that point where you really don't know. And all I can do is share what I have remembered and give them a way to be moving forward, not to tell them, this is the only way, that this is what you need to believe by any stretch of imagination, but just think. Open your mind. Just think. Think from wherever you're at. Don't feel lesser than anyone. Don't feel encumbered to compete with me or to compete with anyone else as far as the level of awareness or accomplishment or intelligence. Allow yourself to be exactly how you are and start your journey from there. The question, really question always. Don't take anything for granted. Don't take don't suddenly say, aha, I know, because that's when you'll get slapped down. You don't. You don't know. You have to choose how you want to be and then go about enhancing your understanding from there. But it's all about how, not being told what to think, but how to think. And I think it's just been, for me, I want to teach that, but again, that's something that I take really seriously. I take my words very seriously. I take my interactions with people very seriously. And if I'm going to sit down and make that a more full-time thing, which I think I'm getting ready to and closer to, I just wanted to make sure I'm up to the task and that I'm the highest version of myself I can be before I do that. Because I think it is serious, and I don't want to be, I hear so many teachers and people throughout the ages, gurus of all different types, and they all come to the table of impressing upon people almost that they're perfect. And I don't even think, Jesus really did that during his life. But a lot of modern day gurus throughout history, saints, you name it, they don't share their flaws with people, and they don't own that aspect of themselves. They don't share enough about how they got to where they're at, or more importantly, the ongoing struggle in the moment, because they're afraid that if they show whoever they're trying to teach that they're not perfect now, that it will somehow invalidate their teachings. And it doesn't. It should strengthen it. But it's also a challenge as a teacher to figure out how you share that in a way that people go, aha, you don't know what you're talking about. And I think that's part of it, is just figuring out how you go about teaching these lessons in a way that you can share your imperfections with people, as well as the fact that you do have something for them to learn, or a greater understanding for them to gain from talking with you or being around you or listening to what you have to say. But it's not coming from a place of knowing all by any stretch of the imagination. It has to come, from my opinion, from a place of not being the man up on the pedestal, but being down on the ground with you, saying, I am just like you. I'm going through the same struggles on a daily basis that you do. I just know that for me, that this works. This makes my life feel fulfilled. If that works for you or gives you a starting point, great. If it doesn't, then you just take what I said and go out and try to find what does work for you, how you want to be, how you can relate to people in at least a similar fashion to the way that I'm trying to, because I do think that connection to one another is one of the most important life skills.
As you were speaking, it reminded me of something I saw from Cheryl Richardson, that somebody had kind of called her out of being rude, of being many things, and she just erased the comment and then went to meditation. And as she was in meditation, Debbie Ford, who is, her whole life was about the shadow and acknowledging it, came through to her and said, you are all those things. Acknowledge it. It's okay that you have those flaws, but don't hide them and suppress them because you feel like you're something better than that. It is a part of you. Acknowledge it. And I think that message is really needed to come out. In fact, I wrote Cheryl Richardson and said, thank you for being honest and open that you're a human being. I appreciate you sharing that story because so many teachers they don't always walk their talk. And I appreciate that you want to be the highest person you can be. And, I love you, Kip, but guess what? You are. In this moment, you are the highest vibration you will always be because, let me rephrase that, in this moment, you are always going to get bigger and bigger. There's never going to be a moment that you say, yes, this is it. So as you were talking about, I want to have the deepest understanding, and guess what? You're not going to get there. As you were talking about, well, that's a great excuse. And I've used that excuse so many times myself, and spirits literally now say, it's time for the next step. I
agree. I agree absolutely. I just think that there is a right time for everything, and now I'm beginning to feel it's the right time. I haven't felt it was the right time, maybe to put it more succinctly. And over-explaining it. I just haven't felt it was the right time, whether that was inaccurate or not. That's how I felt. And, I'm feeling different now, so maybe now it wouldn't have made much sense for me to try to pursue something that I didn't feel right about, rightly or wrongly. I needed to feel, right about it. And I now feel right about it. I haven't before. So I understand what you're saying, but I just had to, on a personal level, feel right and feel that the timing was right to do, to move forward to teach. And now I do. And I didn't before, for whatever reason.
And I apologize for kind of calling you out on that, Anya, but at the same time, I'm calling myself out, because I'm doing the same thing. Yes, I am ready to be all I'm supposed to be as the teacher, as a wayfarer, because there's so many things. We both are pioneers in so many ways. It's time for us to stop hiding and really show ourselves. And I think that's when we put something together. So I'm challenging both of us to say, all right, Spirit, we're saying we're ready. Let's see the unfolding of exactly what we're supposed to do. Because
absolutely,
you and I, it's time for it to unfold. We're stepping up to the plate now. Universe, all right, we're open to it. Let's see what happens.
Absolutely.
It's amazing how many people, and I've done it in the past, and that's how I trip myself up. Oh, I gotta wait for the right time, and then the time came and went, and I lost that opportunity. Now another opportunity always shows up again, but right now it's like you've got to be so aware. This is an opportunity. Take it. So it's.
By the way, you gave me a good chuckle there, because that's exactly what I'll do. I'll call somebody out on something, and then I'll go, I just said that because that's something that I see myself doing. It gave me a good laugh, because I do that all the time. I go, wow, that's actually, I'm saying that to myself. I do that with my writings all the time. I'll read what I write, and I'm like, oh, who wrote that? That's a really good thing to pay attention to.
Yes. And then you stop your face and say, oh, yeah, really, it is time for me to step up to the plate, and not find the distractions. And there is, in this world, because of everything that's going on, it's so easy to distract yourself for what really is meant to really help you and help others. And I'm finding myself not lingering so long on social media. But part of me saying, what am I missing by not being on there?
I go and I will post my writings around, and then I walk away, because I can only take so much, to be really honest with you. And when it's good, it's great. When it's not, I'll want to respond to things that are better left not responded to. Get into debate that really aren't. I'm going to debate with somebody who, and again, this isn't coming from a place of ego, but that just aren't going to get it. And there's no point in going down that rabbit hole. So I'm fighting for myself personally. It's, I've always used, I think I realized pretty early on, with social media, that it can be a great tool or it can be a great distraction. And I really look at it as a great tool. It gets the message out. It gives you a place to basically, publish your work every day. and to connect with the, the few people who, if somebody reaches out and really wants to talk or whatever, then it's awesome to be able to connect with people from all parts of the world. But I also realize that I need to, like you said, not let it be a distraction from focusing on the wonderful life that's out there, the wonderful life that, is calling me to walk through the woods, to be with, my family and enjoy my day with the people I love. It's like that, that's not a good way to
Right. There has been, and I find myself, and we had this discussion on how we want that face-to-face interaction. And that's great. It's available all the time on social media. But that one-to-one where you can shake the person's hand or give them a hug or look directly in their eyes and truly have that connection, that's something I'm hungry for, and I'm finding ways to do it more and more because it does make a difference. And that's something that I think the whole Internet community is finding that it's great. Post it on there, but go have a real life, that real connection.
To that end, if there's something, if you don't mind, there's something that I wrote that I'd like to share with your audience, if I could, real quick.
It's all yours.
Okay. Why is it that when our greatest fear is personal unavoidable extinction, death, and even greater than that, our species-wide unavoidable extinction, that we do all we can to intentionally to hasten its arrival? We push each other away savagely, barbarically, doing it all within our power of our very limited intelligence and even more limited wisdom to destroy ourselves, when our greatest joy, our greatest sense of feeling complete is our connection to one another and blind, soul-level happiness we feel from seeing and helping one another to heal, succeed, achieve, ascend. I said our personal and species-wide extinction is unavoidable, and it is. For no matter what we do, how far our matter-based technology advances, the sun will burn out one day, as will all the other suns we may ever find. You see, everything of matter in time one day dies, changes, transforms into something new. This is not just the foundational understanding of all faith, but the foundational understanding of nature's cycles and even physics. But while these are certainties, they are not ending. They're just part of life's infinitely unfolding process. So perhaps, if I could be so bold to advise, it would be a good idea to, rather than surviving, warring, destroying, consuming, trying in vain to avoid the unavoidable, control the uncontrollable, we choose instead to accept what is, as it always will be, thriving, nurturing, and living every moment as the highest possible vision we can imagine of ourselves, of our species, of life itself. We must experience this illusion and all illusions fearlessly, as we would if it were the last moment before our extinction. As in truth, it may well be, and if not now, soon will be, in some near moment next. Thus making every moment a moment of greater awakening, awareness, remembering that all that matters, all that ever matters, is not matters, but the eternal infinite love we share and are. In doing this, we stop looking back, regretting, angry over what could have been, and what we perceive to have been taken from us. Instead, rejoice in the abundant paradise that is, and all the paradise is yet to forever come. I welcome my death, my unavoidable extinction. In facing the fear of my false mortality, I have gained a profound appreciation for both my true immortality and the love from which it is sourced. I accept that all I can do is accept, never knowing, never controlling, just being loved.
Wow. Powerful stuff. That's amazing.
And I feel that with all my heart and soul, that if we would, and kind of our common thread here, if we would just step back, we would realize that all of our problems are self-created, that they're all us pushing each other away when all we really want to do is hold one another. All we really want to do is to make each other feel less afraid, less alone, more connected, Yet because of our fear, we do the exact opposite. And I really think that it has pushed our species into insanity. Because I can't, for the most part, other than just accepting what is as our chosen experience to have as a chosen role to play, there's absolutely no reason to be the way we are. And again, we can change any of that anytime we want. Will we? I don't know. But what I do know is this: no matter what happens, if tomorrow we manifest a new reality, which we could as a collective, if we choose to, we've created this one, we can create something new. But if we don't, wow, what an amazing experience. I get to be here at the time of my species' extinction. Is that why I chose to be here? To have that experience, to have that unique understanding that could only come from having that experience? Maybe. Whatever may come, I accept it, and I rejoice in it, and I say, my God, what a wonderful life to have had. What a wonderful time to have experienced in the most intense way possible. The overcoming of the fear of the unknown.
But that's it. We talked about this before in our conversation, is really embracing the uncertainty and the unknown with the mystery of life and being okay with it, to dance with the mystery and the uncertainty, and within that, become empowered.
Well, I think it's really important that people understand when they hear the word ascend, I'm going to ascend. They think that they are ascending to something, that it's a destination. Ascending is a process, a never-ending process. And that's something a lot of times I think in the face of the world don't explain to people. They look at, well, I'm going to get to heaven. Well, there is no destination. Let's stop looking for that ending. It's literally like looking for a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. And what would you do if you found that pot of gold? You'd spend it all, and then what would you have? It's like we have to understand the words we use. We have to understand the meaning behind them. And more importantly, the feeling. It's like we have to understand that this is going to be a never-ending process, this ascension, this transcending that we're all doing. And we all do it, even if it's not to the point of to trying to grasp infinity. We're all making incremental steps, and we all have to acknowledge one another for the efforts we're making, and not judge each other too harshly, because we were all more flawed yesterday than we are today, and we'll look back at where we are today and go, wow, how could I have been such an asshole? And we all have to keep that we're dealing with everybody else.
And it's just experience. I mean, as we've been talking, I got another saying of a life unexplored is one not worth living. I think Socrates said that, and that has been my mantra. And I think that's why I consider myself a dabbler, because I want to experience it all. And I'm knowingly that mystery, and that there's no way I can experience it all. And that keeps me going further to say, okay, what's next? Let's put that down in our record book saying, okay, I experienced this, and this was my reaction, and okay, what's next? And embracing that I had that experience with someone, and it might have been someone long distance. It could have been someone that's been in my life for a long time. But have that acknowledgement of that experience and thank that person, that animal, that tree, that rock for that experience of sharing that moment. You might not have it again.
Yeah, and when we say experience it all, it's like we wouldn't know what to do. Well, actually, we are experiencing it all. We have, but we only have the ability to comprehend what we can comprehend right now.
Right.
We wouldn't know what to do if suddenly the floodgates were open. We would literally just shrivel. When I first was having that experience with the infinite, when I was a child, I would get up and literally get physically ill. I would take in as much as I could until I couldn't take in anymore. I think if all of a sudden the floodgates were open and it was just to pour into me, I would explode. I would just go, I'm done. I'm back with God. I'm back with whatever you want to call this infinity love. I'm just one with it. I have no individual self anymore. I have no identity. I'm just gone. Because that's really what would happen.
Literally, I think we all deal with that. So believe it or not, we've only got 3 minutes left. So I want to make sure people know how to connect with you and find out more information about you. So how can people connect with you, Kip?
Anyone can connect with me on Facebook or Twitter. Anytime, send me a message. I'm having a hard time accepting more friends because I'm kind of maxed out in that area, but I will always take messages. Always open to talking with people. So please reach out to me on Facebook. Check out my page, Just Love, which has all my daily posts on it. So, if you don't want to hear other things going on in my life, you don't have to. On another note, I'm just looking for the right editor to do the final touches on my book, and then I'll be getting that out there as well. It's going to be called The Eternal Journey of Being, and I'm really looking forward to sharing it with everybody. I think you'll see. I hope that everyone sees a little bit of themselves in my experiences and realizes that everything that I have, gleaned from this existence so far, they can glean too. They can understand. This isn't unattainable at all. Because trust me, if I can get from where I got to San Francisco with 25 cents in my pocket, tearing the skin off the cornea of both my eyes in 1985, being functionally blind, to where I'm at today, anyone can.
And it's an amazing experience. I look forward to your book. It's a blessing to everyone that you're sharing your story and your insight and your perspective. So I thank you again, Kip-Baldwin. Always a pleasure. And we will be in touch soon, I'm sure, and have you on with your book. So we can talk more about that.
And thank you always, Jennifer, for giving me a platform to blow the ace.
Anytime. So with that, this is Jennifer Hillman.
And thank everyone out there for listening.
Yes, thank you for listening. This is Jennifer Hillman with Each Breath of Air. We hope you gain new insights and inspiration. Till next time, have a great week. It's wonderful to have you here. Take care. Many blessings, everyone.
Just love.